Railways and property have always been closely linked. That's why the stations have always been such a prominent feature on the Monopoly board. From a rail perspective, Crossrail is one of the most amazing, large and complex projects ever undertaken. For those of you that travel by train, it will improve the speed, the regularity and comfort of your journeys across London, and it will create some wonderful new buildings and public spaces. Places like our proposed scheme here, sitting above Bond Street West Station in the Monopoly board heartland of Mayfair. But the reason I joined the Crossrail project is because Crossrail is the first rail project in the UK which must generate profits from property development as part of our core funding. The Crossrail link to property then is much more than a game. My job's to use our stations and other assets as the foundations for buildings that will deliver a return on capital. Precisely because Crossrail is central to our business plan, because property is central to the Crossrail business plan, Crossrail is also the first UK rail project that's designed the stations, the overstation developments and the surrounding urban realm as one integrated package. But Crossrail's impact will be felt far beyond the structures that we create ourselves. It will have a major impact on the property market right across London. Looking at the link between railways and the economy, it's clear that Britain relies on rail. The railway takes millions of us to work every day. It carries the things that we buy between ports, factories and shops, and it helps us to avoid the cost and disruption that come from sitting in traffic. Railways also underpin productivity, given that more than 1 billion of the 1.4 billion passenger journeys that we make each year are either getting to and from work or travelling to business. But the combination of increasing demand for rail travel, which means we now make twice the number of rail journeys than we did in 1995, together with the fact that the railway is nearly full, represents a clear risk. If we don't act now to provide the infrastructure that our businesses need to flourish, then we'll hold back growth at the very time that the country needs it most. Investment in rail capacity, therefore, is central to Britain's economy and in maintaining London's place in a global economy. Unfortunately, though, rail infrastructure is expensive, with railways across the world needing some form of government support. One way of making that more affordable is to link railway construction with the property development opportunities that it creates. And this is by no means a new phenomenon. The Metropolitan Railway was the world's first underground railway when it opened in 1863, just 12 years after the Great Exhibition. But by the 1880s, the Metropolitan Railway Company had taken its first foray into property development at Neasden. And by 1919, with the expectation of a housing boom for returning war heroes, Metropolitan Railway Country Estates Limited was formed. MCRE went on to develop a range of new estates, and they coined this term, Metroland, to promote the dream of a modern home in beautiful in countryside with a fast rail link to central London. Crossrail is the next chapter in that railway property development story, and we aim to take the story to a new level. So what is the Crossrail story? Well, essentially, we're building 118 kilometres of new modern railway linking Maidenhead and Heathrow in the west with Abbey Wood and Shenfield in the east, through 21 kilometres of twin-bore tunnels under the centre of London. There are 37 stations, 8 of those are new, and you'll be able to travel from Heathrow to Tottenham Court Road in less than 30 minutes, from Paddington to Canary Wharf in around 16 minutes, and from Abbey Wood to Tottenham Court Road in just 23 minutes. That's about half the time that it currently takes. What progress are we making towards all this? Well, we're on time as well as on budget. As shown on this slide, we're well advanced in the purchase of all the land that we need to build and to operate the railway, and we've all but completed our design work. We're about 80% of the way through our procurement, and our current focus is on digging the tunnels and building the stations as we move towards the peak of our construction activity over the next couple of years or so. The next stage in delivery from 2014 will be installing the railway systems before we finally start to introduce a rail service on a gradual basis between 2017 and 2019. With construction now well underway, no doubt you'll all have come across the Crossrail hoardings as you make your way to and from your daily business or go about that business in the West End or the city. If you could see behind the hoardings, you'd see works of a truly gigantic scale. This is the view looking down from our Tottenham Court Road West ticket hall at the top end of Dean Street as we prepare for the arrival of Phyllis next year. And this is Phyllis, our firstborn tunnel boring machine, here being delivered at Royal Oak at the start of the year. Now, when you stand beside one of these babies, you can't fail to be impressed. She weighs in at about 1,000 tons, stretches for 140 metres, and our family is set to grow to include Phyllis and her 7 sisters. The major tunnels under the centre of London are Crossrail's greatest civil engineering challenge, with 5 tunnel drives, each weaving their way between existing underground lines, sewers, utilities and building foundations to make their way from station to station at depths of up to 40 metres. And here we have a computer-generated image of Crossrail's twin tunnels, with our new ticket halls shown at either end of the new Tottenham Court Road station. The sheer scale of what we're building here, in comparison with the central and northern lines, you can see there in black and in red, never fails to impress me. Our new central London stations are designed on a pretty epic scale to cater for the fact that Crossrail is again the first UK project to bring full-size heavy rail trains underground. Our platforms will be the length of 3 football pitches, and at surface level will cover 3 full city blocks. But Crossrail isn't just about scale, it's about the quality of the passenger experience. And so our stations will display real care in their design, being born of lengthy and careful collaboration between some of the UK's best-known architects and the UK's finest engineers. That attention to quality has been applied to both exterior and interior, so when you board your first Crossrail service, the station will be light, clean, spacious and easy to use, with simple links to the outside world and to other modes of transport. This slide highlights just how important we believe a sense of place is to the overall Crossrail vision. Our stations will typically consist of 240-metre long platforms with escalators at either end. Below ground, your passenger experience will be of high quality, but essentially uniform, such that you will always know that you're on a Crossrail platform. However, above ground, the stations and the overstation developments will be unique, and by putting property at the forefront of our project, we're aiming to revitalise that link between stations and placemaking. Our stations will be at the heart of the communities that they serve, creating attractive destinations with theatres, restaurants, shops and quality public spaces. Places that people will want to spend time in rather than somewhere to pass through as quickly as possible. The next 5 years will see us bring forward plans to develop around 2.5 million square feet of office, retail and residential space above and around our stations. That's nearly 5 gherkins or 32 football pitches, with a profit target of more than £500 million, and makes us, for the next few years at least, a top 10 UK property developer. We think it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reinvigorate some of London's best-known and busiest areas. Turning next to the public realm, Crossrail is again unique in designing and delivering urban rail master plans for all of our stations in partnership with the local authorities. So when you arrive at or come away from a Crossrail station, you'll walk through vibrant and permeable spaces where you'll easily be able to either access your next chosen means of transport, or to stay a while, enjoy a coffee and watch the world go by. We've been deliberately ambitious in designing for a wider area than we can fund directly, and in completing that design work now, some 6 years ahead of Crossrail opening, in order to enable us to do two things. Firstly, to consider the wider context of the areas in which our stations sit and design accordingly. And secondly, to encourage further investment in delivering the full 90 million of Urban Realm programme by working in partnership with local authorities and developers. And this is what it looks like when you put the stations, overstation developments and public realm together. Looking down from centre point, this slide shows our new 1 Oxford Street development, for which we got planning consent in April, delivering with Derwent London 380,000 square feet of offices, retail and London's first new theatre for a generation. And it's this marriage of new transport capacity and quality places which I believe is the key to making Crossrail a real driver for the future development of London. In summary, I'm proud of what Crossrail is developing, and I believe these projects will have an important role in helping to make the market in a number of key locations. But what we can bring forward on our own land is only a small part of the impact Crossrail will have on London. That's why we commissioned GVA to look at Crossrail's wider property impact, and the study is now available on the Crossrail website. But its headlines essentially are that Crossrail will add £5.5 billion to the value of property in London, and we'll do that by generating substantial value increases in the areas immediately around our stations, which will accelerate the delivery of the pipeline of some 57,000 new homes, or 3.25 million square metres of commercial space that lies within a kilometre of our stations. That's 30 million square feet in old money, or the equivalent of a town the size of Ipswich and 26 shards. The GVA report also looks at our 37 new connections from west to east, characterising each in terms of their impact on the property market. Crossrail will clearly have a significant impact on values across the board, but there are some locations where that impact will be more limited because there simply isn't enough developable land. In other areas, Crossrail will be a significant boost, but because the market's already moving upwards, will reinforce the existing direction of travel. However, the final category shows those locations in which Crossrail is set to really transform the market. And this category of game changers includes the obvious candidates like Farringdon, but also puts forward a range of other locations like Southall in the west or Custom House in the east. In conclusion then, Crossrail's much more than a rail project. It's an investment in the future. For those of us in the property game, it has the ability to transform and unlock development and to bring transformational change. Returning to the Monopoly board, Whitechapel is one of those places that will be transformed, but if Crossrail's to be successful, we'll need the help of everybody who's involved in London's built environment, working together to move London forward. Thank you.